Hey guys, I'm here today with Alejandro. How I say your last name?
Buitrago.
Buitrago. We're gonna actually do the rowing marathon together on December 12th. Actually, I must say it was his idea, and he said he will never do it, but he decided to jump in not only to help us raise awareness and funds for the Wygand Foundation, but also because just like me, he's a special needs dad. So can you tell us about your son a little bit?
Well, my son was diagnosed with autism not too long ago, and we kind of like went through all the phases of acceptance and then what we're gonna do, and now we just kind of like going on with the flow and enjoying every minute with him.
So I must say, because the day I got my son diagnosed, it was. I mean, for a while I thought I still have hope that all everything's gonna come out negative, and like he's just tired, the phase or whatever. How was for you to receive like the diagnose, like the full, like okay, this is. I know it's just a label, but like it's hard, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, when it all started with someone that mentioned, a friend of ours mentioned something about our kid, and I think every parent don't want to hear someone said anything negative about their kids. So when we heard that, I was a little upset about it. It's kind of like, no, he's just doing things that a 6 month, 7 month old will do. But then eventually, once you hear it, it kind of like stays in the back of your mind. So you start analyzing behaviors, and then little by little, you start identifying the flags. Like my wife was really good at identifying the flags. She was like, "Oh, this is a flag. This is a flag." I'm lucky enough to have someone in my family that worked with the spectrum for many years. My mom used to work with. My mom still works with kids in the spectrum. So she was very cautious of what she said, but she'll mention things here and there. So little by little, like I started shifting from like, no, my kid doesn't, to, maybe I should pay attention. And eventually we reached that wall where you get a little defensive, but also you find yourself analyzing everything that he does. And it was a little bit hard for me to accept it for those 2 weeks, I think. And then finally I just went and shifted to, this is my kid, this is my life, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to dive into his world, and I'm going to just make the best out of it. And I have to say that ever since I did that, it's been great, because I'm not longer analyzing what he does, I'm just enjoying everything that he does.
yeah, that's pretty interesting you say that, because I went through the same thing, even though our special needs are very different. Just so you guys know, my son with myopathy is more physical, and with Alejandro, it's more mental. With So there's two different perspectives here, but the fact that like you have a diagnosis and you have different needs for your kid, and in the end ended up being the same, right? I mean, it's tough. So we're doing this marathon, which was his idea of a rowing marathon. Uh, so what did you make you? Because like when you told me, I was like, because we were talking and I said like I did 18 Ironmans, and I told him like I love the challenge of going the distance, and for me, if it's like if I'm not gonna think about quitting in the middle, it's not even worth doing it. That's how much I like the challenge. And you say like, hell no, I will never do that. What made you, change your mind on that?
Well, first of all, I gotta give it was, I proposed the idea to Richard, but I mean, as a CrossFit enthusiast, like I saw the marathon row on the CrossFit Games, and I think everyone that likes CrossFit probably saw that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, because we all want to do whatever happens in the games. But I mean, I got a reality check, and I saw that 42,195 meters, and I was like, I don't want to do it. That's a long time. But then I proposed to him, and I started spreading the word when he created the event, and he told me and people start asking me, are you gonna do it? I want to sponsor you. And it just kind of hit me as this is an opportunity for me to get more people involved, get more people to donate, and hopefully get more people interested in doing it and raise awareness. And I think it was a matter of a day or two. I started getting really excited and shifted this motivation from I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for all of those that are willing to support the cause, to support me, or that want to watch me suffer through it. But if that is a motivation for anyone to watch, donate, be aware, and may at this point like also know what my child is going through, then I'll do it. It's just like it's something bigger than just my ego now, and I think that will give me or has given me the push to do it.
Now, I must ask, did you expect me to actually do it or no? Like when you proposed to me, you say like, this guy's not going to do it, or you thought he might be crazy enough to do it?
I think I worked out with you a few times, and I seen how you take anything that has to do with cardio. And I saw you rowing that day, and when you have that long distance triathlon mentality or running mentality or swimming mentality, is like you said, if it's not gonna go through that quitting part in the middle, it's not worth doing. So I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. I'm just kind of like, I was in that sort of on the fence thinking, if he does it, does that mean I have to do it because I propose it? Or I could just get away with just get a team and do it? There was a lot of things, but there was something clear in my mind, and it was, I'm not doing it by myself because it's too long. I might get a team, but by myself, I'm not doing it. But then everyone kind of like just give me that little push, and it just shifted from, it's not for me, it's not for my ego, it's not to have fun with my friends, it's just to not let anyone down that is willing to donate, to be aware, to participate virtually or however. So have you ever done anything like that for somebody else? Like, no, I have not. I have donate whenever there's an event. Usually we do an annual, there's a beach volleyball tournament here in Colorado that happens every year. It started off as to raise awareness for JDRF, which I can't really tell you what it stands for, but that's how it started the tournament. And that lady had it for so many years, and then another guy took it a few years back, and he I think his son was diagnosed with autism, so he kind of got that kind of piggyback of that JDRF with some autism as well. So every year we do that. So the fee for the tournament is all donated, and then you can add whatever you want to donate, and then the facility. Maybe I guess I'm gonna have to give a shout out to the Island and the Oasis here in Colorado that they match whatever up until certain numbers. So every year we kind of donate to that and participate, but it's not sort of like this painful, I'm doing it for somebody else. It's more like, oh, this is fun, and while I'm doing it, what I usually do, I just donate. Yeah. So it's never been like something. And if I've ever run, I run maybe 5K. The most I ever run was 6 miles, and it was hurtful. And it was for myself, but I'm like, no, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, it's like I must say, even though we're doing this for my foundation with physical disability, but anybody that donates under Alejandro name, it's gonna go go for autism, because that's something that we talked about it, and because his son just got diagnosed, so we're kind of trying to, like, he's a dad too, and so we're kind of trying to incorporate a lot more stuff into this, including other gyms to join us. But like when you do something for for something bigger than a purpose bigger than you. Like I started to do it with my son, and like the feeling, it's amazing. And you're gonna see when you finish, because like the day off is always like usually emotional, especially after you finish. But what I want you to try to explain here, like on your training, because we were talking about this during our workout, because we work out before we do this podcast. So we were talking about this. So can you explain a little bit of the feeling that you got when you started actually training for something that you're gonna do that is gonna be for a bigger purpose or a higher purpose, whatever you wanna say it?
Yeah, it's been kind of an eye-opening experience for me, because I never actually trained with that much of a purpose. Like, I feel like I used to play volleyball in high school, and that was what we trained for. And then once I met my wife, we started going to CrossFit, and I really liked it. And eventually just became like, many people talked about with CrossFit. I'm not training to make it to the CrossFit games, or I don't even train for competitions. I just train because I like it. I just train because I like to see how I get better every day in my garage. Like, I did this, and I didn't, like, I don't post on social media what I do.
Well, if you don't post on social media, it's not true.
Exactly. So whatever I say doesn't count. But I like all the stuff that I do, I just kind of like go and share with my wife or a few friends. Like, I did this. I mean, not a few, because there's probably like one or two that I know what I do, but everybody else can care less. And I don't want to be one of those CrossFit guys that are always talking about their workouts. Yeah. So it's always been just for my own personal satisfaction and fitness and health. But the 42,195 meters, it just seems like you can't just, I mean, I guess you could, but when you have this support from all these people that want to help you do it, then it just becomes serious. Like, it's not for me. I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to sit down in that rower and at 20,000 go, I'm done. This is too much. Like, I want to make sure that I don't let anybody down that is willing to participate in your foundation, is willing to participate in knowing about Santi's diagnose. And, I just don't want to let anybody down. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, once you have this positive pressure of people supporting you, it's just no longer about my personal accomplishment and my idea of, I'm going to post it on Instagram and say like, hey, here is 42,195 meters. Is more of like, I don't want to let you down. I want you to know that the fact that you went and donate, the fact that you went and maybe on December 12th, watch me row for 10 minutes or 5, maybe you got bored. And I just want you to know that I did that because I had your support, and that will become something bigger than my pain, than your 10, 20, $5, whatever you donated. Like that's all what I have in my mind.
Yeah. So basically you can honestly say, when it comes to fitness wise and your whole, the whole purpose you do things, it's been a big shift for you, right? To do this marathon.
Yeah, I think I'm doing this for everyone else other than me.
Yeah, because I remember when you told me about it, you said, heck no, I would never do that, And to be honest, like sitting on that roller for 3.5 to 4 hours, it's painful, man. And you already done what, training wise, 20,000. And how that felt?
Well, it was hard. Like, I started with 10K. Like, I had done 5K many times, just kind of like, today I'm just gonna do 5K because it's 20 minutes. So it's like, it's a quick cardio workout, and it's painful, but you still kind of like it. I think the 10K, which I did last week, is kind of like a eye-opening experience to like, hey, this is not longer about you doing it fast. It's more about whether you're willing to complete it.
Yeah.
And then I did 20K this week, and I think since 10,000, I was willing to quit. I was like, no, I just do 15,000 maybe. And then I got to 15,000, and I was like, no, I'm here already. Let me just finish it. And I think I have 1,000 left. And I was like, my butt is sore. My hands are kind of getting a little annoyed by the friction. My hamstrings are feeling the pull. But, you know, it just becomes, I think it's always in the back of my mind is the idea of everyone just willing to support for the cause. It's not even, I don't feel like I would let anybody down if I don't do it. I don't think anyone's gonna come back and be like, hey, I donated, you suck. You know, but it's just kind of like, it's something bigger. It's not just me, because I tell you, I work by myself. I come here, I work out by myself. If I don't want to do it, I just quit. I go back home and then feel bad the rest of the day because I didn't finish. But that doesn't hunt me down, and the next day I'm like, oh, I gotta go finish that work. I'm like, okay, done. I didn't do it.
It's game over.
But with this, it's like 15,000 meter in, I'm like, I'm doing 20. I say I'm gonna do 20, and I'm gonna do 20 because 20 is what my goal was for the day, and I don't want to let anybody down.
Exactly. Yeah, that's you know, like me doing many Ironmans, and I remember like right before we got pregnant, we went to do Ironman Cozumel, and my water bottle broke on, and I rode like 10 miles with no water in Cozumel, so I was severely dehydrated. Then when I saw my wife, I was like, okay, that's it, game over. You know, like, and I felt bad because of like, now I'm gonna be a dad, and I don't want to, you know, my son to think I'm a quitter. So 2 months later, I went to do Ironman Naples, and I ended up finishing first. But that time, that was actually the first time I did something that was greater than myself, because it was my wedding anniversary, and I put a picture of my son ultrasound on the bike, and I carry one with him on a run, and then I was like, this is gonna be for him, because I didn't want to go 2 Ironmans back to back without finishing. Then I ended up crossing the finish line first, so which was just icing the cake. But you know, like, that's what it, you know, like in the beginning of the run, I was like, I'm ready, I'm done, you know, like, because I was getting burnt out too. But when I look at the pictures, for like, okay, I gotta do this, you know, for something way bigger, and I was like, this is for my son, and makes a whole different ball game, like mentally wise, you know. And it's funny because I talked to Graham. Graham is the owner of the CrossFit gym that we're gonna be doing this, and he said like, yeah, you know, like I hit 10,000, and all I keep thinking is having pictures of your son in my mind to keep me going to the next 5,000. And I think like mentally, that's what I like endurance. Is like mentally you gotta kind of play that with your mind and kind of see, you know, like what we're gonna do. And I think that's, you know, when you do something greater, it's something completely different. But now, I'm just gonna switch the subject a little bit. Let's talk about fatherhood a little bit.
Okay.
Can you, first of all, just tell me a little bit of the pregnancy? Do you guys have any issues, or what were you looking forward, and how, you know, like the whole thing coming along affect your plans that you had before, or it didn't affect you, and how mentally you're dealing with all that? I know you work out for stress relief, but like, you know, like the shock of getting the diagnosed, and what did you do, and what is like your plans and things like that?
Well, so it was kind of a shock when she told me that she was pregnant, because I don't think neither one of us were expecting it to happen. And for me, it
So
was,
were you trying? We
weren't trying.
No, you weren't trying. Okay.
but we weren't not trying.
Not trying. Okay.
So we
you
were
just
kind of
let
like just
life
going
goes,
with the
yeah.
flow. And then she tells me, oh, you know, I'm pregnant. And it was a very beautiful moment for me, because she told me, and for me it was hard to hear it because I wasn't prepared for it. And one of the things that you always hear is, oh, kids, they're a lot of money, and I don't think we at the time were in a place where having a baby will bring all this beauty about finance. Like, oh, we have the finances to take care of this. So it was freaking me out financially. I would never doubt my ability to be a father. I think I'm at a point in my life that fatherhood was just right. But it was just that financial stuff, and the beauty of it was pretty bad for her because she was expecting me to just kind of like, oh, I'm so excited. But for me, it was like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do? Like, I start thinking about options. Like, my mind just went crazy thinking about all the things that I needed to be thinking about. Like, oh, maybe I start driving Uber, maybe I just get another job or this, and then, oh, but I won't be with the baby, I won't be with my wife. And it was one of those moments where my faith came into play. Like, I'm not a very extremely religious person, but I do carry my faith with me a lot. I'm just not advertising or participate too much for that matters. But I do remember that, and there's been many moments in my life where I just kind of like let go and let God take control of it, because I knew I couldn't do anything about it. I could freak out all I wanted about the financial situation, but it wasn't gonna get fixed overnight. So I just went to sleep, and I woke up, and it was just like a different me. I was at ease. I was at peace with whatever was happening. I didn't freak out ever again about having a child and not having the money. It just became this precious moment that I was looking forward to. It's I always, if I have friends that wanted to know about like a hard situation or something, I always share that with them, because I'm not religious. I'm not actively religious, but I do have
spiritual, you have a
spirituality,
spiritual,
and I do have my background from the Catholic Church, and I carry like I hold God dearly to my heart personally, and whenever I can, or moments like this, is like, oh, I can just share it with you. Like, I mean, you don't have to say it was God, but you could just say like, just trust that things are gonna be all right. If it's in your plate, you will be able to handle it. You will have what you need to be able to overcome it. It's just how you embrace it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's funny because I'm spiritual too, and I grew up technically Catholic, but I'm very spiritual, but I'm not affiliated with any religion. But it doesn't matter if you put God or not, because God is just a name if you think about it. But if you say like just trust that everything's gonna be alright, that faith, it's what kept me through in a lot of the things. And it's funny you talk about financial planning, because my story, like, we have a lot of things in common, but my story with pregnancy is completely different. Like, we planned it, like right before we tested if she was like ovulating, and then 2 weeks later she was pregnant. But when I received my, I thought she was pregnant that day when she went to test. I went to take the dog out, and my mother-in-law was in the house. So I come back, my mother-in-law is crying. And then I was like, oh shit, somebody died in Brazil, like somebody in the family died. And then she looks to me like, congrats, daddy. I was like, what the hell? That's how I find out. And then when I went to the room, and then my wife was all happy, and then I was in shock because my mother-in-law told me. And then she's looking at me like, you're not happy? I'm like, yes, I am, but like I received it from my mother-in-law. Like, this is no cool. But what I'm trying to say is like we planned everything, and then for us was like, like my wife had a job at home, and I work from home coaching, and when I go out, I go out for a few hours only, but mostly my coaching is online. And we thought like, well, we have everything figured out, like financially we're okay, this. And then here comes my son, and we spend a lot of time in the hostel, and that all that plan went to hell, like we forget about it. So it's a very different perspective, because for me in the beginning was like we were all set, like we planned this ahead, and even though shit happens, and I ended up driving Uber for like 6 months before I moved to Colorado, just because of the expenses. But like it's just crazy how life can turn around like in seconds. But now that you like, he's like almost 2.5, right?
He's 2.5.
Yeah. So now, knowing that he's being autistic, and this is what a lot of the things I talk about is like people don't realize how much sometimes special needs can be financially hard. Like, are you right now? Are you having like any different expenses that you didn't have before that you have to introduce into it, or no?
Uh, yeah, well, he's got therapy. Well, luckily we started with early intervention, which is a program that is free.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
And it helps a lot because we started with a speech therapy and occupational therapies, and now we have developmental therapists, and it's been we were being lucky to have a really good occupational therapist, and he has done so much progress. But like as far as that was free. Now we started ABA therapy, which is covered by insurance, but we still have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
But I gotta say that we've been very blessed that at the point that we at right now, financially, we have progressed in our careers. We really can't complain. Like, we're not like super rich, but like we managed to live our life, and thank God we're still able to do our responsibilities with our son. I think for us the best, the shock was when my wife started working, that we need to find somebody to watch the kid, and the daycare, that was the part that just went from like, hey, now we got another mortgage to pay. So but luckily, like I said, we've been blessed. Everything has been falling into place. We've been all the cards that we've been dealt with have been very successful, and we are at the point that we are okay. And even if we weren't, I think we will still manage to be happy with whatever it is that we have.
Yeah, it's just like I like to create awareness, because it's like the same thing with your son. Like, my son have OT, developmental. They have like so many therapies, and like it adds on. Like that's the reality. It adds on, but we're able to manage. And
I have to shout out to the early intervention plan, because, like I said, my mom worked in that, and she works with a lot of kids on the autism spectrum, and she kind of like started like giving us some information and telling me that I should do this and I should do that. And then my wife, that is really good at researching, she started researching things, and little by little we started getting into the, and due to early intervention and the fact that we qualify and we got the first test, if you will, of his behavior, and they provided all these services, that's how we are able to see all the progress that we have seen with our son. And thanks to early intervention, is that we haven't had any of the financial burden that could mean to anyone that does not have that service. So shout out to them.
Exactly. I give my shout out to them too. Like, especially Colorado have a lot of different programs for special need kids that are amazing. That's one of the reasons I moved here. But we kind of start closing it out here. One thing is, when I met you, and we met you at a CrossFit competition, and like when we started talking about special needs and stuff like that, two things came into my mind. One thing is, like, you guys were really positive about it, and the other thing, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I've like they're just got the diagnosed and just running through all this stuff, and like you guys were like extremely positive about it. So how you keep your positivity and trying to keep things together?
It's just looking at him. Like, I think that's just the fuel behind it. Like, you just look at it, you look at him go, move, talk, and like, we just have the diagnosis probably like 2-3 months ago, I don't know, but
Yeah, because I met you probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And you just had received it.
Yeah, we just had it, but I think I always not always knew it, but once I embraced it, like when we went to early intervention, it was hard because that was kind of like they told us they can't say that he was in the autism spectrum, but they did say, he's delaying speech, he was delayed like in many things, and you don't want to hear that. You see it on the paper, and it's kind of shocking because like your whole time you were thinking he was, I don't like to say normal, but he was he was neurotypical. Yeah. So you're like, they tell you that, and you're like, oh crap. So all the suspicions that we had before, they were true. Yeah. And that's when I went through my 2-week period of trying to find out what I was gonna do with this. I used to sit down with him and look at him and not able to play, but more than analyze him. Yeah. And it made me really sad. I mean, I used to just look at him and cry because I couldn't just find a way to connect with him. And then those 2 weeks, like me trying to figure this out, and eventually I kind of like just went, screw this. He's my kid. I don't need to analyze it anymore. I don't need to feel sorry for him or myself. He is who he is, and this is my blessing to have, and this is what I have to enjoy. And I just kind of like dove into his world and became not his doctor or his analyst. I just became his dad, and it's like, you're my son. I'm not gonna look at you differently. I'm not gonna look at some other kid and be like, oh, but he, like, I mean, I do get impressed of other kids that do many things that he doesn't do, but
that's normal. I mean,
exactly.
You appreciating somebody else's ability.
Yeah.
That's
when a kid
normal,
asks for something and speaks so fluent at 2, I'm like, oh my God, he speaks so much. But I'm like, okay, he doesn't. Oh well, he's my son, and I just like he
has
shifted.
different abilities. Like he can do probably a lot. Like you said, like
he
can freaking walk like for miles. Like.
And then like for me, that was just kind of like, this is my son, and I think for me at that point it was like, he's got something, and I start calling it autism without getting the diagnosis, without anything. And my hope was never that we will go and someone will tell us, no, he doesn't, you're wrong. My hope was always like, he's got something. My thing now is like, what do we do to improve? And what do we do to connect with him? Because I don't like to call it like, oh, he's gonna get better, because I feel like the term better, if you have a neurotypical kid, you would not ever say, how's he gonna get better? You would always say, we expect him to grow and learn. You would never actually say like, is he gonna be a bank robber, or is he gonna be a drug dealer? You never say that about a neurotypical kid. So I feel like it's very unfair that if you have a kid with autism or any disability, you're gonna be like, is he gonna get better? It's like, that's who he is. Exactly. His better is going to be...
Yeah, well, my better thing was more like independence. That's how I think.
Exactly.
For me, like with my son, is like, for him to get better is like, I want him to be as independent as possible.
Exactly, but you don't know, it's not like, oh, is he gonna talk? It's like, he might talk when he's 5.
Yeah. I can care less. I talk to my son through the iPad, like I can care less. He's communicating and he's getting his independence. He's being able to play by himself.
The goal is that he doesn't need you.
Yeah.
Because that's what you don't want, because you don't want that burden of, if I'm not here, what's going to happen to him?
Yeah.
And that's what, and this is one of the amazing, and I think this is one of the things that I love the most about having my kid being diagnosed with autism, is that I no longer have this visualization of society as I knew it before. I completely shifted to a more loving, more compassionate side of the world. Like, I'm not longer looking at, oh, that guy is weird. I'm like, maybe he's got a disability. Maybe that's the way that he acts. Or maybe he's just an asshole, but he's entitled to be an asshole if he wants. Yeah. It's like, hey, but
I started to see the word different too.
And I love it.
I started seeing just love, pretty much. It's like, That's how I exactly felt. It's like I just started looking at it like it is, like it's just love him the way he is.
And I don't want him to get better. I just want to learn how to make him learn more.
Exactly.
Like, it's like I just gotta find a way to be part of his world and to help him
And let
understand.
him create his own world.
And also like, help him understand the world that surrounds him, because it's
Exactly.
not the same, because unfortunately we are all society driven, and
Yeah.
and society will just create these pressures. But it's like, hey, this is your world and it's perfect to have it your way, but there's all this other world out here that you need to learn how to deal with, because they're not going to be your parents that they're always willing to adapt to you.
Yeah.
So just, I think once I made that peace with, hey, he's got autism, it just, even when they give us the diagnosis, I was never like surprised or anything.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, okay. Like, I never, like, after those 2 weeks, never felt like anything was going to be a shock. It was like, I'm an advocate for, like, whenever something bothers you or there's something that you carry, be vocal about it.
Yeah.
Express it. Talk to people. Don't just hide it and be like, oh, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm going through a divorce, for example. Yeah. Like, tell everyone, because the more you said, the more you see it, the more you materialize it, and the easier it is for you to embrace what's happening, rather than just hold it inside and don't tell anyone and let it consume you. Like, I think if I was to not want to share my son's story with everyone, it will be so much pressure for me to, like, be around friends and be like, oh no, he's just acting a little different. It's like, no,
there's no point of hiding your kid.
Exactly. It's like, because
that,
and I don't do it for everyone else. I do it for me because he helps me.
Yeah.
Just accept that this is it.
So you think acceptance is probably the key for pretty much everything.
Yeah, and even with kids and the autism spectrum, and because I don't know much about anybody else, but I think the sooner parents accept what's happening, the sooner they're willing to pass that protective stage where you don't want to feel that your kid has something, the better it is for your kid, because the sooner you get services, the sooner you start being proactive, and the easier it is to take someone telling you, hey, if you do this with your kid, it will work. And it's also discipline, because it's hard, because they're so cute and you already know what they want, that you kind of like, oh no, I'm just gonna give it to him, instead of like making him work for it. But it's like, the sooner you accept that this is your reality, the sooner you accept that this is what you need to do, the sooner you will actually get into your child's world and make him thrive to be the best that he can.
It's funny you say that, because I have, like, we talk about spirituality later on, early on, and I have four spirituality rules. First one is acceptance. Second one is face your demons. Like, whatever challenge you have, you need to face them. The third one is own your choices. So whatever you choose in life, just own it. Don't try to pass it as the guilt for anybody else.
Be responsible.
Like, take responsibility for your shit.
Ownership.
And the other one is like trust your intuition. Trust that everything's gonna work out. So when you said about acceptance, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's right there on point. Now I usually try to ask a difficult question in the end.
Okay.
So
I didn't study, so I'll probably fail.
So what do you think, what is your biggest fear when it comes to fatherhood? So I told you it was difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I must say I have two, and one of them is bully, because my son is in a
Oh.
wheelchair, so I know how school goes, and that's one thing and it pisses me off, because I already went to supermarket before that people were staring at me and at him, and I just said, like, what the fuck are you looking at? Like, if you want to ask, like, hey, what does he have? I'm willing to answer. Just come and talk to me. I explain everything, but to stare at me, like, one day, like, somebody was staring at me and they said, you, and then the parents didn't say anything. I was flipping out. I almost went to the parents, like, dude, you need to teach your kid how to react, with differences. But that's one of my fears, like, that he gets bullied in school and shit like that. But But
I have to say, when it comes to parenthood, I may have many fears,
well, I have many fears. That's one
but
of them.
I don't embrace any of them. So now in America, with all the shootings that are happening,
Yeah.
so there was a shooting this week on
California,
Thursday
right?
in California in a bar. College students went in a bar for line dancing, I think it was, and some of them, they never made it home. So the point that I'm trying to make is, I started talking to my friend at work about the situation, and I was like, now that we started the therapy with Santi, which is in a facility, in a public facility, it used to be in an in-home daycare. It's like, there's always that chance. And I started talking about this, and I dove into that particular situation. I was like, they could very much call me right now and say like, hey, you don't have a son to pick up because some crazy person just decided that, hey, I don't like the therapist and I'm just gonna go in and do whatever I need to do. Because unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now, and that could happen. So as I was talking about this and kind of like picturing this scenario, I just stopped myself. And I usually do that because there's no point in me fearing or being afraid of something that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
Because that will prevent me from being at ease at work and enjoying that time that I have to, do my job or talk to friends or fantasize about what work that I'm going to do when I get home.
Yeah,
or
stay in the now.
Exactly. So that's why I try to disconnect with that. And that happens when he was first born. My wife kept freaking out that he was going to, choke, seats, how everybody always tells you, like, sudden death, it's a thing. You have to do this. You have to do this. And when he was born, I'm like, sudden death is kind of like sudden. Like, you don't know what happened.
Exactly.
Like, there's
going
things
to be nothing you can do about it.
That term sudden death means like I'm walking and I just suddenly die. It's like, if I was afraid of that being the case in the morning, but if I dwelled too much on it, then I could not go to sleep. I could not wake up. I would be miserable, which goes back to what happened with my kid. I was being miserable, analyzing him and not enjoying him. So on that fear question, I usually try to just enjoy what I have today. If he's going to get bullied, then I deal with it when he gets there.
Well, yeah, my idea is the same thing. Like, I try to stay in the now, but I know, I know by seeing it. Because, I grew up in a school that I had one friend that she had one leg shorter than the other. And I didn't make fun of her, but everybody was making fun of her. And I didn't like it. It's just like something that every once in a while crossed my mind. But I'm like you. It's like, okay, whenever that problem comes, we deal with it, because if you start feeding the fear in your body, you're just gonna go crazy, because you're just gonna start analyzing and thinking what could happen, this and this. I totally agree with you, but I usually like a curiosity to say, like, okay,
so if I had
what is the hardest thing you can think of going through,
So then if I had to say what I would be afraid of, it would be of that. Of one day getting a phone call
of a school shooting
that I'm
or something
not going to be able to pick up my son because for whatever reason he's not there, or my wife, or like that would be something that unfortunately nowadays I feel I need to be afraid of.
Yeah, it's something that nobody expected.
Exactly. And
you take your kid to school, like I remember I grew up, like, Rio de Janeiro is a dangerous city, but I don't think I ever had a thought of going to school and not coming back. Like I never had that issue of somebody coming and shooting, or the possibility of somebody coming and shooting. So that's definitely
I always felt like
raise a question in there.
I always felt like the shootings in Colombia were kind of, they have a reason behind it. I'm not saying they were alright because they happened, but they had it was kind of like a gang member or some kind of beef here. Exactly. It was never like, no, they just went to the movies and never made it back because
some crazy kid just got a gun and start shooting at that. That's a tough reality because it's, like Brazil is the same thing. Like if they're fighting for, not saying this right or wrong. It's just like it's a gang fight and you happen to be in the middle.
It's kind of
thing. Like they kind of almost have a purpose behind it.
I almost feel like when there's that kind of violence, you could remove yourself from the system. So if you go to a club and then you happen to know that there's certain gang members,
exactly,
there you're like, hey, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here because this could be bad news. Yeah. But not like, oh, I just went to the mall and that was it.
Crazy ass.
I think that's the scary part, that
it can be out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Because like you grew up in Colombia, I grew up in Brazil, and I went to many parties where I saw like, okay, things here are not feeling properly. I know,
walk away.
And then you just go. Like you see, you start to recognize like, oh, some people, they're trying to create some conflict in there. Then you just take off. Like, but when you're in school or when you're in a nightclub and out of nowhere, like you cannot even feel it. The energy getting tense or anything.
And there's
like
one thing like a fight, like you go to a club and
two
guys get into a fight.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of
a whole different story.
Yeah, but like, oh, a shooting, just because
just because like your friend have like a bigger jacket full of guns,
man, it's
just like happened in Florida.
That would be my fear, to get a phone call of, hey, you don't need to pick up your kid, or like find out in the news like that. If I had to say a fear that I could have, it would be that. I think bullying and racism, like, it could happen, but I think it won't scare me as much as just not being able to hold him one more time, to talk to him one more time, to hear him laugh one more time. That would be devastating.
All right, so that's a message for everybody out there. Now, we talk here with Alejandro Buitrago. I'm Richard Wygand. Also, my website is A Dead on a Mission. We're going to be doing the rolling 40 to 195 meters for the Go Look Wygand Foundation. It's going to be live on Facebook and Instagram. Not Instagram, sorry. Facebook and YouTube. Is there anything that you want to tell people to go watch you, or go watch you suffer and cramp? And
I would say put a team together, do it on your own, hashtag, tag, whatever, and get your family members to support you, get your friends to support you. Just spread the word, because I think you will amaze yourself of how much support will push you, because I think that's what it is for me. Like, once I start trying to want to get people involved, it's like, now I'm doing it, but if you want to do it, I'll let you come home and do it. It's just get yourself involved.
There we go. Well, I'll see you guys some other time, and December 12th rowing marathon, and just check us out. We are athletes helping families with physical disability thrive. Thank you.